see how we can get the videos enabled.
That's good to know, Justin. Let's go ahead and call the meeting of the North Fair Oaks Community Council to get to order, and we'll begin with a roll call, please.
1 second. Start recording.
Recording in progress.
Okay. So let me get started with the roll call. Councilmember Juan Carlos Prado.
Present.
Councilmember Beatriz Cerillo.
Present.
Councilmember Linda Lopez.
Present.
Thank you. Councilmember Joni Gillespie. Seems like she's absent. Councilmember Everardo Rodriguez is absent today. Councilmember Jennifer Ruiz. Councilmember Blair Whitney.
Here. Present.
And Councilmember Gabriela Egg. I did not see her in the attendee. And I did not see Citlali Guarencita either. And then finally, Chair Brooks Esser.
Present.
Okay, thank you.
Next item on the agenda is public comment. Anyone may speak up to 2 minutes on any topic not on the agenda this evening. Note that the council may not discuss or take actions on items that do not appear on the agenda. Do we have any public comment?
Okay. Before we get started on public comment, I do want to give a brief announcement that we do have an interpretation line that our Spanish interpreter will assist us with. The phone number is 1-877-568-4106, and the code to enter is 877-394-869. Anna, would you like to provide this instruction in Spanish?
Yes. Muy buenas noches. Queremos informarles que tenemos una línea de donde vamos a tener interpretación simultánea. Para acceder a ella, tienen que llamar al número 1-877-568-4106. El código de acceso es el 877-394-869. Gracias.
Thank you. Members of the public, at this time, if you wish to give a comment on any topic not on the agenda, please raise your hand now to organize public comment.
How about members of the panel?
We'll have report outs in a moment, Juan Carlos,
Okay. Yes.
after supervisors, county managers report.
Got it. Thank you.
You bet.
I believe I do not see any public comment. Chair Brooks, could you check on your end?
I see Ludmila Vasa as an attendee with her hand up.
All right, 1 sec. Ludmila Vasa, you will have 2 minutes to share your public comment, and I will share the timer on the screen. Okay, let me unmute your mic. Okay, when you're ready.
Gianna, I have a question. I was wondering if I will be speaking regarding the Synapse school. So do I do it now or later?
You can wait for the agenda item.
Okay, sure. We'll do that. Thank you.
Okay, last call for public comment. Okay, seems that there are no public comment at this time. Back to you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll begin with report outs then. We'll start with the supervisor's report. Maggie Cornejo, I see you. Go ahead, please, Maggie.
Evening, council members and county staff. My name is Maggie Cornejo, and I'm a legislative aide for Supervisor Warren Slocum. I have a couple of updates for everyone. The first one is that on January 4th, the Board of Supervisors elected unanimously Supervisor Don Horsley as president and Supervisor Dave Pine as vice president. The second update is on Middlefield Junction. And I want to share that yesterday, the State Strategic Growth Council voted to award funding for the affordable housing project on Middlefield Junction. This project was the top scoring proposal with an award of $25.5 million. And as many of you may know, this project is built by Mercy Housing and it will include 180 units. The third thing is on the North Fair Oaks community plan. Supervisor Slocum shared with the council members some remarks during last study session, which included revisiting the North Fair Oaks community plan and update the information that it includes. County staff is scheduled to have a meeting on the topic and we'll plan for next steps. The third update is on the Parent Digital Help Center. And thanks to a Measure K grant, students at the Siena Youth Center will be able to continue their work on the digital divide by creating a digital help center for parents. This will help all the parents who don't have the digital literacy to attend school meetings and submit school forms for their kids. I see. And then the other update is on the Choose Local app. The Office of Community Affairs continues to do outreach with businesses on Middlefield Road to encourage their participation on the Choose Local app. And so far, there's 48 businesses that are participating and 2 that are redeeming. And the last update is that Supervisor Slocum was appointed to be on the board for Peninsula Clean Energy. He'll be joining Supervisor Dave Pine. And for those that don't know, Peninsula Clean Energy is the community lead electricity provider for San Mateo County. They provide clean electricity at lower prices than PG&E, and invest the proceeds back into the community. That concludes my report, and I'm ready for questions or comments.
Are there any questions for Maggie? Okay, seeing none. Next up is the county manager's report. Justin Mates. Go ahead, Justin.
Good evening, everyone. Good to be with you here today. Justin Mates, Deputy County Manager. Not a whole bunch to update you all on today. I did want to reiterate something that I believe you all received a flyer on, and that is next week, February 2nd at 5:30, there's going to be a virtual meeting concerning the vision for Flood Park. Flood Park, as you all know, although technically in Menlo Park, is a real resource for the entire area, including plenty of youth programs and youth and families from North Fair Oaks. And we really want as broad of a participation as we can in this process, the envisioning of Flood Park. So there is a flyer that you all received, but that information is February 2nd, 5:30 to 7. And there is a link for the virtual participation on flyers. And if possible, I don't know if I can use a chat in this, but we will get you all make sure you all have the flyer, and we ask that you distribute it among your networks. that, I'm happy to take any questions, but also seeing that we've got quite an agenda today, so happy to reserve the time for others to speak as well.
Are there any questions for Justin? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much, Justin. We'll move on to council members' reports. I'll go ahead and go first. Just some highlights from some meetings I've had in the past couple of weeks. I spoke on the 24th of January with Jessica Shade of the Healthy School Lunches Committee of Redwood City Schools. This group is addressing the issue of the quality of the food being provided at Redwood City Schools and also the relative lack of healthy options for students. She's going to be presenting at our March 22nd council meeting, discussing the ideas that committee has to rectify this. At this point, they're looking for a pilot program that would provide more healthy options for students. We'll get more details on that in March. Again, that's something that's just being developed right now. I attended the neighborhood response team meeting on January 20th, got some updates on Public Works. Let's see what we had here. Excuse me. Christoph of Public Works noted that there had been some flooding on 8th Avenue, and that's unfortunately pretty typical for that area. 8th, however, is on the reconstruction list, streets that are going to be completely rebuilt. It's due to be rebuilt in 2024, and in the meantime, they're going to be patching that street to make sure that they'll be patching potholes to make sure the street stays together to some extent. Matt Hayes of HSA presented. A reminder there, they're doing their annual count of homeless individuals. They're still looking for volunteers on that. That count's going to occur on February 24th. Again, they're still looking for volunteers. If you're interested, you can reach out to Matt and talk to him. Finally, went to an update on the Middlefield Road project. Again, this was Christoph speaking. As of now, it appears as though the project will be completed on schedule. About 17% of the contract has been paid. 33% of the working days have been performed. They're right in the middle of sanitary sewer work. As anyone who has driven up and down Middlefield doubtlessly has noticed recently, the joint trenching work down the middle of the road, which includes things like Wi-Fi, is going to start in a couple of weeks. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Emma and the team at OCA for all of the work that they've done to keep the public informed about the Middlefield Road project. Emma was on the call and mentioned a bilingual website that has actually seen a great increase in the number of new visitors. People are staying on there longer. So there's really this ability to get word out to people, let them know what's happening and the progress that we're making on that project. Obviously, in-person outreach is on hold for right now due to Omicron. And that is, those are the updates that I have. Vice Chair Prado, go ahead, Juan Carlos, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I did want to acknowledge our council, our youth council. Unfortunately, she's not here with us, Citlali Curencita, who received a Youth of the Year award. She is currently a Woodside High School student, but is enrolled in a middle college program where she is also a student concurrently taking classes at Kenyatta College. I wanted to publicly recognize her leadership in the community and at her school, even though she's not here with us tonight, but I did want to report that out on her. That's all I have.
Thank you very much, Juan Carlos. Councilmember Cerrillo. Beatrice, you have an update for us tonight?
Yes, I viewed the launch of the Mid-Peninsula Open Space Board of Directors meeting yesterday, and they officially launched their 50th anniversary.
Oh, wow.
50, and so they have several events planned for the year. They want to host a table at one of the newer parks that is opening up. So it was, and also they talked a little, they had also a part of the redistricting. The maps were presented. They went over the general information, and they took an official vote as to which of the redistricting maps they were going to support. And it looked like they had an ABC one And MAP A was the one that received their official support as a board. And that's it.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Beatrice. Councilmember Lopez. Linda, you have an update for us?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Ruiz. Jennifer?
No report.
Okay. Councilmember Whitney. Blair, the floor is yours.
No report.
And Councilmember Aki. Gabriela, do you have a report for us tonight?
No reports, but I just wanted to add on to Citlali's accomplishment. She not only represented Middle College, not only the Boys and Girls Club, but she also represented the North Fairwoods.
Yeah, it's making weird noises.
Okay, I'm gonna make you co-host, Sherry.
Searching.
So you can help me add people in.
Sure, no problem.
I'm not sure what happened to the meeting.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience.
Not a problem.
Diana, I'm getting an error code when I try to make people panelists.
I get that only for Emma, but I'm able
Okay.
to add everyone else as a panelist.
Okay, great. Justin Mates, I believe I was able to just get in.
Okay. Got Justin.
We're adding people back into the meeting, folks. We'll get underway in just a few minutes here. Apologize for the delay.
Yes, thanks everyone, and thanks to Deanna and Sherry and everyone trying to fix all the technical gremlins today. I'm firmly convinced 2022 has it in for all of us. Thanks everyone for the patience, and thanks Deanna for working through all this.
I thought it
Yeah,
was
there's-
I thought it was 2021 that had it in for all of us. My goodness. We'll work through this.
Yeah, there's not a day. Okay. Trying to find, let's see. Okay, but we've got most of the panelists.
Panelists, if you're still in as an attendee, would you mind raising your hand? Then we can probably more efficiently transfer you over. Thank you so much.
Could you add Melissa Canella, please?
There we go. I was just looking for Melissa's name.
Thank you.
We have Linda Lopez, Melissa Canella, Emma Gonzalez, Ludmila Vasa, Jim Egan, Bob Bear, Kanoa Kelly. Emma, I apologize. I'm having trouble moving you over.
Yeah, same. I'm still not able to add her as a panelist.
I think we can proceed to the next agenda item while we work through this.
Great.
Our next presentation is the history, mission, and current projects impacting North Fair Oaks of the Hispanic Foundation of Silicon Valley. The presentation is going to be made by Ron Gonzalez, who's the CEO of HFSV. We have Ron and Melissa set up as presenters. Ron, if you'd like to share your screen, the floor is yours.
Okay, give me 1 second here. Can you see that? Hopefully that works tonight.
Yes, it does. We see your
Okay.
presentation.
Recording in
Yes.
progress.
That is good to know.
There
Well,
we are.
good evening, everyone, and welcome to Silicon Valley and Zoom presentations. And Happy New Year to all of you. I'm sorry you can't see me, and I'm sorry I can't see you, but hopefully that'll get reconnected here shortly. I want to thank the council for inviting our foundation to present tonight. What we'd like to do is give a short overview, kind of, I call it the 30,000 foot level overview of our foundation. Some of you may not be that familiar with it. Some of you may, and Melissa will be assisting me in the presentation. Melissa Canella is our education programs manager. So she's directly involved in all of the programs we do, both in the city of Redwood City as well as San Mateo County for Latino students and parents. We focus a lot on parents, and you'll see that throughout the presentation. Our foundation is now celebrating 32 years of service and history. It was started many years ago by a group of Latino leaders here, primarily in the Santa Clara County area. And I've been the president and CEO of the organization for 12 and a half years now. And I want to say about 8 years ago, we began to expand our services into San Mateo County, and particularly the city of Redwood City and the North Fair Oaks neighborhood. And we've done a lot of different projects there, and you'll see the result of some of our recent work once Melissa takes over the presentation. Our mission statement is pretty basic. It's to basically improve the quality of life for Latinos in Silicon Valley through community philanthropy, investing in education excellence, leadership development, and convening and engaging the Latino community. We are a small but nimble group of people. I have many years of service prior to my public sector service as the mayor of San Jose. I was an executive at Hewlett Packard Company, and one of the things I learned there, one of the many things I learned there, was the importance of small but nimble teams. And I'm very proud of our organization and the 6 people you see that joined me as colleagues, Melissa being one of them. And I think we surprise a lot of people with the amount of impact we have with such a small team. But that's based on our business model, which is to know the needs of our community and how to address those needs, and to work in partnerships with other nonprofit organizations to use their subject expertise to bring that subject area expertise into our community, into our Latino families and students, and help have them help us improve the quality of lives of those families. We focus on three specific areas, as I mentioned: education excellence, leadership development, and connecting and engaging the Latino community. Our education excellence programs, which Melissa will go into details on the next slide, are what we call our cradle to career strategy. And you'll see on the next slide how we're involved with Latinx students and their parents, literally from the third grade up to and through college and out the college graduation door into the Silicon Valley workforce. All of our work within the education excellence area is on STEM, specifically trying to get more Latino students to be successful in the STEM curriculum path in elementary school, middle school, high school, and college. And she'll, as I said, she'll go into details on all of our education programs. Our second area of focus is leadership development. We have a very effective and successful Latino Board Leadership Academy. This is a 10-week program that trains Latinx professionals who want to serve on nonprofit boards of directors for different nonprofit organizations. We're proud of the fact that just now, we've just closed in the last week the application period for class number 20. We've had 19 previous academies, as we call them, with over 530 graduate fellows to date. And 70% of those graduate fellows, every time I'm on a Zoom call, my best friends decide they're going to call me. And 70% of those graduated fellows have been appointed to nonprofit boards throughout the Bay Area, from very small neighborhood organizations to very large nonprofits such as the YMCAs, the YWCAs, and many, many others like that. We believe very strongly in connecting and engaging with our community. We do that through various functions. We have a very effective Latinx speaker series. We conduct 2 or 3 different speaker series each year. They're, of course, before COVID, they were all done, all of our activities were done in person. Even our education programs were after school at various school sites throughout Santa Clara and San Mateo counties. But since COVID, all of our programming has been shifted. Virtually all of our program has been shifted to the virtual format, or Zoom, as we use that platform exclusively. We also have a great deal of research. We've done a great deal of research on our community, the needs of our community. We encourage you to visit our website and to download the free copies of the latest 2018 Silicon Valley Latino Report Card. This is the third in a series of report cards where we looked at the quality of life for Latinos in both San Mateo and San Mateo counties. San Mateo and Santa Clara counties. And we looked at the quality of life in 5 key areas: education, health, financial stability, housing, and the environment. The reports are chock full of data and will give you an idea of some of the challenges facing our Latino community in our region. And in fact, we are gearing up right now our fundraising efforts to raise the amount of money that we will need to have to do our next report card, which we hope to make public about this time next year. It's a great deal of research that goes into this, and research is very expensive, so we have to raise the money from various corporate and foundation partners. And then, of course, our biggest convening event is the Hispanic Foundation Ball. The last 2 years, this event has been virtual, and we are very, very hopeful that we will be able to have an in-person event this year. Its tentatively scheduled for October 15th. It'll be in downtown San Jose at what used to be the Fairmont Hotel and what is now going to be a part of the Hilton hotel chain, with a new hotel that they're going to be opening in March. So these are the ways we stay connected with our community, and we do other kinds of things to reach out to our community, such as surveys and polling information. So let me hand it over to Melissa, who will go through this slide with you to talk about our Cradle to Career model.
Thank you, Ron. Good evening, everyone. My name is Melissa. I oversee all of our education excellence programs and initiatives, which you can see here on your screen. So one of our main goals through our educational excellence programs is, as Ron mentioned, to really support the Latinx students and families in our communities. And in these past several years, we've made really conscious efforts to expand our programs, our resources, and our services to San Mateo County, which I'll get into. As you can see here is our Cradle to Career model. And essentially our goal is to provide high quality STEM education and college readiness workshops to Latinx students and their families in Santa Clara and San Mateo counties. As you can see here at the very bottom of your screen is our Parent Education Academy. We have 3 different nonprofit experts in the areas of parent engagement. And through these 8-week courses, we provide spaces where parents can learn about the ins and outs of parent engagement. What is the American school system? How can I better engage with my child, especially in these last 2 years, in this period of isolation and social distance learning, and now what is hybrid learning and in-person learning. And in response to some of the things we were hearing from parents, we actually developed our digital literacy or aprendizaje digital classes for parents online so that they can feel more comfortable in their digital skills. They said, we want to learn how to use our emails. We want to learn how we can send messages to our child's teachers and how we can understand the platforms that our kids are using to learn. So about once a quarter, we do digital literacy workshops via Zoom, and we share those with all of our families that we work with. At the elementary school level, we really hone in on the fundamentals of STEM, which are literacy, math proficiency, and fundamentals of science. So through our partnerships with Springboard, Collaborative, Sciences Elementary, and Calculus Roundtable, we have done a series of workshops for our students in San Mateo County, predominantly through our collaboration with Familias Unidas United Through Education. We've done, I want to say, 3 different resource drive-thrus with Familias Unidas in the North Fair Oaks Library with families to distribute science literacy kits that have DIY elements that parents can use at home, read a story to their children, and conduct a science experiment based on the story. So we do demos with these parents during their parent engagement courses, and then the parents do these experiments at home with their kids and learn more about the fundamentals of science. I will say that overall, we have served almost 800 San Mateo County students and families in these last 2 years during the pandemic. At the middle school levels, we focus on combining the fundamentals of STEM with fun elements like video game designing and coding through Girls Who Code. These initiatives in these last several years have been in virtual formats, and we've done a couple of clubs at Ravenswood School District. We actually have 2 clubs planned this upcoming spring with the Kit Peninsula schools over in East Palo Alto area. One really great thing about our coding clubs is that they're facilitated by our very own first generation Latinas in Technology scholars, because for us, it's really important to make sure that our students are being taught and are listening to and learning from other Latinas such as themselves that have gone through similar experiences, that are born and raised in similar neighborhoods, and really understand what it means to be a first generation Latina and student of color going through school, especially in the climate that we are all in, which is uniquely challenging for all of us. Our current facilitators that will be working on our upcoming clubs in the spring attend Stanford University, and one of them is our very own alum who is now actually working at Stanford Hospital, and I think we're actually going to talk about her in a little bit. At the high school level, we really hone in on college readiness. We run a series of workshops focused on preparing our students for college and the college application process. looking for scholarships, how to apply for scholarships, and how to improve your personal statements, draft them out, work on your writing skills, and get ready for that submission to get into college. And last but not least, we have our Latinos in Technology Scholarship Program. Through this program, our goal is to provide up to $10,000 a year for up to 3 years to incoming third and fourth year Latinx college students that are majoring in STEM at a 4-year university. To date, we have supported 427 scholars. 80% of them are first generation, 42% are Latina, and just over 27% of them are community college transfers. Every year, I'm in communication with some of our San Mateo County community colleges, such as Cañada, to make sure that we're not only reaching our community college students getting ready to transfer, but that we're also making conscious efforts to work with those students in our area and make sure that they get all the resources and info they need so that they can apply for great opportunities, such as our Latinos in Tech scholarship. In addition to the financial support, we also provide them with professional development, coaching, and training, both in group settings and in individual mentorship, as well as work to connect them with opportunities for internships in STEM that will help get them prepared and get more experience for their full-time once they go into their careers and graduate from college.
All right, thank you, Melissa. Brooks, let me just pause here. We've already given you a lot of information. Pause for any questions that people may have on any of the information we've provided. Before we do that, I do want to make special note of the financial support we receive in San Mateo County from a lot of your corporate companies who are headquartered in San Mateo County, as well as companies who are headquartered here in Santa Clara County or other parts of the Bay Area, who provide us grants to offer these programs in your neighborhood. I specifically want to call out Supervisor Warren Slocum, a good friend of our foundation and a great champion for our programs in San Mateo County, who has facilitated us receiving a grant from San Mateo County along with the other board members. So we want to call out, do a special shout out to Supervisor Slocum. But are there questions at this point before we move forward? We only have a couple more minutes left of the presentation. If you have a question, just unmute yourself or raise your hand. I guess Diana will call on you. Okay. We'll move forward then. No questions.
There's
So-
time allocated. Sorry.
I'm sorry, was there a question?
No, I'm just there's time allocated after your presentation for public comment.
Okay, great. All right. This is the student that Melissa just mentioned, Catalina Huerta. You know, one of the exciting things about this job and this foundation and the work we do with these students is we really see the joy in their faces and their families' faces when they achieve a tough goal of graduating, to be their first in their family to graduate from a 4-year university. It's just amazing. If you know Latino families, you know that we're really masters at crying and showing emotion. And it's really wonderful to see these graduations taking place. We like to highlight Catalina Huerta because she's pretty typical of the 500 plus students that we've helped get through college or we're helping now. Catalina was born and raised in Eastside San Jose. You know, this area is very, very low income, very similar to North Fair Oaks neighborhood. And she decided to pursue a degree in health sciences and out of state. So she went to the state of Washington, to Whitworth University. In June of 2020, she graduated with a BS in health sciences. At our virtual Hispanic Foundation Ball last October, she was one of our 2 student speakers talking about the success she had and thanking the foundation for our support of her reaching her goal. And she was delighted to share with the virtual audience that she had just accepted an offer to work at Stanford University Hospital. And you know that hospital to be one of the leading hospitals in the world. And now we have a young Latina STEM major working at a major university hospital. She's just typical of many of the students that we've helped get their college degree, and Melissa mentioned this, many of them returning to their own communities to help other students just like them participate in our Girls Who Code program. The other reason we like to talk about Catalina and the other students is they're examples of our cradle to career model. Catalina first got connected to our foundation when she was in the 8th grade, and her mother signed her up for an after-school workshop on Algebra 1 that our foundation continues to offer. And as she told the audience that night, she really did not like her mother that month. She was not happy about having to take time to learn Algebra 1. But the more she stuck to it, and the more she realized that she could master Algebra 1, and that set her off on a whole different education career, which eventually led to her Bachelor of Science degree in Health Sciences. So, you know, it's amazing that some of these students, we've been working at this for so long, working, you know, as they say, an inch wide and a mile deep, to have impact on their students' lives. And you all know that when a student in their family to get their college degree, that changes the trajectory of their lives and the trajectory of their family's lives. And studies show that that first college graduate in your family will drag behind them siblings, cousins, all kinds of folks that look to someone like Catalina and say, hey, if she can do it, I can do it. So we're delighted to be able to work with students like Catalina. Just some other information about our program you can see here. Brooks, we did share this PowerPoint with you. So if you want to pass it on to council members, you're welcome to do that. It's all public information. But here you can see the types of degrees our students tend to major in. So as Melissa mentioned, one of the things we do is we work very actively to try to get all of our students summer internships, because one of the other things I learned at Hewlett Packard is a successful summer internship usually leads to a job offer. And that's how we measure the success of this program. How many of these students get a job in STEM? These are the universities that are represented. You can see all over the state of California. And we also have some students who have gone to colleges like Catalina outside of the state of California. Very small numbers, though. For those of you who work in corporations who would like to support our work, there are a lot of different ways to do that. We have various events like the Hispanic Foundation Ball, where we have something like 60 corporate sponsorships every year. That event helps us raise about $500,000 in just one evening for all of our work. We have a Latinx speaker series. We get separate program grants, as we call them, from various corporations and other foundations. And we also are very engaged with all of the employee resource groups, or what they call ERG groups, Latino ERG groups, in many of the corporations, both in Santa Clara and San Mateo counties. I'll end our presentation there because the rest of it's more about our budget process and so forth. But I'll be glad to take any questions or comments from your council or members of the public.
Yeah, we can open it up for questions from council members. If any of the council members have questions, please go ahead and raise your hand and Diana will call on you. While we're waiting for that, Ron, do you have a sense of the number of scholarships that have been won by NF North Fair Oaks students, residents over time?
I'll turn to Melissa, but I don't know that we have it at that specific level.
No, I just thought I'd ask, but I mean, obviously super effective and really incredible work that you're doing to promote academic excellence among the youth in the area. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, although we don't have that exact number, we have made really conscious efforts to expand our outreach within the community. We'll actually be hosting a community workshop on our Latinos in Tech scholars that will be facilitated to all of our parents within our network that have attended all of our classes with Familias Unidas or with any of our other student-based programs. So we are continuing to expand our network and really leaning on the digital space to connect with our parents and make sure that they're aware of these resources so that their children can apply.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on that. You know, one of the silver linings for us in the pandemic is Zoom. You know, when Melissa actually came on our staff 4 days before shelter in place took effect in March of 2020. 4 days she worked in the office with us. and then we were gone for, a year and a half or so. And she, in actually 5 work days, transferred 30 plus both student and parent classes over to Zoom. We had no experience with Zoom, just like all of you on this line probably had no experience with Zoom. And I was very concerned, particularly for our parents, because we had no prior experience with them around technology and their use of technology. But surprisingly, we found that attendance was higher and participation was higher. And we found that anecdotally, about 70 to 80% of our parents were accessing the parent engagement classes over their smartphones. And, prior to this, they'd have to rush home, get dinner on the table, rush off to the local school. Whereas this case, they would be participating in the classes while they cooked dinner, while they were helping their families get settled in for the evening. So it's been a godsend. And as Melissa mentioned, it's led to some other things where parents have said, we're not really using the power of email. Can you train us on how to do that? So we worked with the Latino ERG group at Google, and they gave a special series of workshops around effectiveness of email and how to use the power of email. And then the parents said, what about computer security? So it's just, it's growing and growing and growing. So it's, we have found, quite frankly, that our best recruiting source is not the schools and not the teachers, it's the parents. Talking to the parents, letting them know about all the different programs we have to offer to their children, and they get their children signed up for it. So it works out great.
Oh, that's terrific. I don't see any questions from council members. Do we have any public comment, Diana? Oh, I'm sorry. I see Gabriella there. Can you go ahead and unmute Gabriella?
Yeah, I have a question. You guys said that you guys talk to elementary students and parents and high school parents, but what schools have you guys talked to about the Hispanic Foundation? Because as a high school student and a Latina at Sequoia High School, I know a bunch of freshmen or younger classmates that will really use this resource.
That's a really, really great question, Gabriela. Thank you for that. Within our reach in San Mateo County, it does span several schools, like I said, whether it's elementary schools like Garfield and Taft, Hoover Elementary. We've recently connected with East Palo Alto Academy, and we'll be launching a couple of programs with them as well. And we've done several parent education classes in schools like Hillsdale and schools like Ravenswood and schools like all over the area. Our newest connection to is Kip Peninsula schools, because we know that they've been getting larger and larger in the community, like their new high school at Kip Esperanza. And we're always open to connecting with new schools. And really, that's our goal, is continue expanding and expanding our connections and our reach. And I'm happy to connect as well offline.
Yes, of course, because I can also pass the word to the Boys and Girls Club that are evolved for elementary schools and high schools. So that'll be amazing for other Latinos to have this opportunity.
Absolutely. And we've recently connected with them to learn more about their programs and their efforts and see how we can possibly contribute to their community and their students as well. So thank you again. I'll put my email in the chat if you'd like to connect.
Councilmember Lopez, you have a question for Ron and Melissa?
Yes. First of all, thank you very much, Ron and Melissa, for your information. I thought I heard you say that a program was going to be established at Siena Youth Center regarding setting up a digital help center. Is that correct?
I don't think we mentioned, but go ahead, Melissa.
No, we did not mention that center. I
okay.
think
That may have been I'm sorry. That may have been something that someone had mentioned prior. Okay. I'm going to go back actually to what Brooks had commented on. In regards to working in San Mateo County, can you be more specific about your work in North Fair Oaks? And you did mention that there were some activities that are coming up in the future. How will you identify some of the gaps in North Fair Oaks that need that type of outreach and information?
That's a really great question. So looking at North Fair Oaks specifically, we've been working really heavily and leaning on the expertise of our partners over at Familias Unidas, United Through Education. They have been excellent advocates and, quite frankly, COVID emergency relief responders in all sense of the word, beyond curriculum focused on math and core standards to teach your children at home. So they have been our principal partner with the North Fair Oaks neighborhood. We are in constant communication with them to make sure that the parent engagement curriculum, the academic curriculum with parents, directly reflects and responds to what parents share are their most urgent needs. And I think that the COVID pandemic has really highlighted that, where they said, we want to learn about digital literacy, but they also asked, how can we get more access to things like vaccination clinics? How can we learn more about supporting our kids in this online learning? And one of the elements that we incorporated was those sciences elementary kits that I mentioned earlier. So we combine those efforts and Safe Drive-Through type organizations with Familias Unidas, where we share books, we share emergency things like masks and flyers and resources, and those kits, so that families can continue learning at home and sort of enjoying this time together, learning alongside one another, either with their whole partners, because at this point we see whole families join on Zoom and everyone kind of joining that dialogue and discussion. We're actually set to launch our next Familias Unidas parent engagement course with the Adelante School next week, actually. And we'll be participating in our next drive-through on Saturday, February 6th, outside of North Fair Oaks Library. And we look forward to doing, I think, one more course in summer with a new set of parents, I think in Hoover Elementary School. And we're already talking about what other classes and relevant curriculum and programs we can present to this community for the next school year in the fall.
I would also add, Linda, that Melissa and I put our email addresses in the chat room.
Okay.
If you want to send us your email address, anyone on the screen wants to be added to our email list, we have a very effective email distribution program that announces all of our upcoming programs. We're also very active on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, we got 4 or 5 of them. But if you add us to your file and your favorite social media, you'll see how much information we push out to the public. Because, the reality is, although we serve thousands of students and parents every year, we know that with our limited financial resources and our staff's bandwidth, there are many, many more students, many more parents that we could serve if we just had more resources. And so we're constantly up against that demand for sure.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions from council members for Ron and Melissa?
Yeah, I have a question, if I may have the floor.
Certainly, Juan Carlos, go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, Ron. I wanted to, first of all, thank you both for a tremendous presentation, and what you're taking on is a colossal challenge. I mean, the community need is great throughout the Bay Area, and as your resources are limited and stretched thin, there's so much only you can do. My question is, I've been a high school teacher here for over 20 years now, here in my community where I was born and raised. And I do my efforts in my school for over 10 years. I have a student group, young Latino leaders, my particular high school that I counsel. But is your focus more guided towards elementary, middle school, or high school, or is it throughout? I just would like to know more what your target audience is in the Latino community.
Right now on our Cradle to Career program, we target students we start with primarily in the 3rd grade around reading proficiency. That's so important because if you're as an educator, that That's where a lot of our students fall through the gaps. They don't learn how to read effectively and proficiently, so then it just piles on from there. But we work also very effectively in the middle school areas. And we have, as Melissa mentioned before, many very effective programs at the high school level. So our levels of concentration right now, again, given funding and staffing, are focused on third grade up to and through college and out the door into the workforce.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Are there any other questions from council members? Okay, seeing none, is there any public comment for Ron and Melissa?
During this time, members of the public, if you wish to comment on agenda item number 4, the presentation by the Hispanic Foundation of Silicon Valley, please raise your hand now. I do not see any hands raised. Anna, are there any public comments on the phone line?
There are no comments in this line.
Okay, thank you. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Diana. In that event, thank you very much, Ron, Melissa, for your presentations tonight and for all the excellent work you do benefiting the youth of Santa Clara and San Mateo counties. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Brooke, for the invite again, and thank you, council members, for the great work you do that obviously is having impact in a wonderful neighborhood called North Fair Oaks, and continue the good work. You're improving the quality of life for all the families that live in that neighborhood. So thank you.
Thank you and good evening. Our next agenda item is a recommendation. We're considering an amendment for a non-conforming use permit pursuant to section 6133.3 of the county's zoning regulations to construct a single-family residence with a 3-foot right side yard setback for the first floor where 5 feet is required, encroachment into the daylight plane, 1 covered parking space and 1 uncovered parking space where 2 covered parking spaces are required, and 3 habitable stories, 2 above ground and a habitable subgrade basement where 2 habitable stories is the maximum allowed on a substandard 2,675 square foot size parcel located at 647 San Benito Avenue in North Fair Oaks. There will be no tree removal and 200 cubic yards of grading is proposed. We have 20 minutes for this agenda item, and the presentation is going to be made by Olivia Boo, who is a planner with Planning and Building. Olivia, the floor is yours.
Hi, can you hear me and see the screen?
Yes.
Olivia.
Good evening, council members, county staff, and members of the public. My name is Olivia Boo. I'm the project planner for this, and then we'll be walking you through the subject use permit for this project. I'll go over the project requests, the exceptions, and discuss comments received from the public, and then be available for any questions. So this permit is a use permit for, which is required. One element is required for property that is under the S73 zoning district for development of parcels that are under 3,500 square feet. And as noted, mentioned, this parcel is 2,675 square feet. It involves construction of a single family residence with one of the exceptions being proposing a 3-foot right side yard setback where 5 feet is required. And there's proposed encroachment into the daylight plane. Proposal of 1 covered parking space where 2 covered parking spaces independently accessible is required. And then for 3 habitable stories, 2 stories will be above ground, and then the 3rd story is a habitable subgrade basement. This is a good aerial view of the project. It is outlined in yellow at 647 San Benito. And then it is located between Fair Oaks Avenue and Oak Drive. This is a view of the property. The house is approximately a very modest single story, about 690 square feet. And you can see it does have the covered parking carport area. And this is a view of the rear. This is an existing site plan of the structure and the property. This is a floor plan of the first floor and highlighting that the proposed 3-foot right side setback in the red outline. And then in the blue outline is the exception for proposing one covered parking space, which is in this space. And then to the right, on the right side, proposing one uncovered parking space. Proposing 2 covered parking spaces was not done because it would encroach into the right side setback. This is the second floor, and just to show you that this it is only the first floor that's encroaching with the reduced setback. The second floor will comply with the required setback. And this is a view of the basement level, subgrade basement level. This is a view of the right elevation. And the San Benito is on this side, and this is the carport. This is the left elevation. On this diagram, I wanted to highlight the front elevation, and also in the red outline, it shows the encroachment, another exception, which is the encroachment of the daylight plane. So this outline, the dotted line shows the daylight plane, and the outline shows that instead of doing a pitched roof to be designed within the outline, the dotted lines, that the design is proposed for a more straight-lined square roof, which it would provide more vertical habitable space for the second story. It is also showing that the proposed height is 24 feet. Sorry, I cut off the numbers for that, but where it is in compliance with the overall height, which is a required, which is a maximum of 28 feet. And then identifying in the blue outlined area, this is showing the reduced setback of 3 feet, one of the exceptions, and then above is showing the compliance with the required setback. So the second story complies for the side yard setbacks. This is a view of the rear, the rear elevation, which shows the subgrade basement. For public comment, staff did receive about four public comments. One of them was for the impact to the adjacent property. If you're standing on San Benito looking at the property, there was concern about impacts to the property to the left, and with specific concern of, because there is a front balcony proposed on the front elevation, how that would impact privacy to the property to the left. And so I wanted to show the reference of the balcony. And on the next page here, wanted to show again, this is the subject property outlined in yellow, the concern for privacy purposes for the next door property. One is, and this was also tied to the email that I believe the council all received. with several bullet points. So I wanted to just discuss for this in this diagram that these are approximate numbers drawn that I drew on our mapping system page, that the approximate front setback for the adjacent property is 27 feet. And then the proposed front setback for the habitable space for where the front balcony would start is proposed at 35 feet. So it would be set back, not necessarily aligned with the front of the next door house. And hopefully that would reduce some of the privacy concerns that are from the front balcony that is proposed for the second story. Some other items that were discussed in the letter of whether a soils test was submitted, as there's concern about flooding in the area. And staff did check. In response to that, there's the area is not known for flooding, but I know that based on some earlier discussion in the meeting, I know that it does seem to exist in the area, but so there is areas that is looked at by the building department in terms of flooding, and generally speaking, the area is not known to have floods. Also, additionally, flooding can be a concern from a drainage standpoint, and that is looked at from our geotechnical staff on board. They do look at that for every project that comes through, and to make sure that drainage is adequately designed for a structure that is constructed. Also, I did touch base with the applicant in terms of if there was a study available, because given based on that there's the 200 cubic yards that is proposed for the project, planning at this stage, planning does not require a grading permit discretionary approval is not required at this stage. However, it is looked at the building stage. But I did reach out to the applicant, and they did have that study done. So I will be able to make that available to the interested parties who inquired about that. And there were, I believe, 2 of the folks who contacted me did inquire about that. So I will be able to, I just received those today. I will be able to send those out to those interested parties. And in terms of, there was concern about, because the adjacent neighbor has permits to operate a daycare center, there is concern about construction vehicle impacts to the daycare operations of family drop-off and pickup. And then also in terms of just disturbance, which is understandable. Staff will be looking into checking with our Department of Public Works on their regulations on how traffic and construction vehicles are managed, and do some research into possible mitigation measures for this project. And also if there's a way to address noise impacts in consideration of the daycare operations. There also was a concern about construction and dust, which are, and noise, things like that, and which is typical for construction. So those are looked at in terms of construction standpoint, and noise is regulated as long as those are regulated by the department. And also dust is there's a dust control plan that is reviewed by staff as well, that will be looked at as part of the project scope. And then another comment that came in was regarding that the interested party, they mentioned that they were not able to attend this meeting, but that they did feel that the project as designed one for the height that the newer development is proposing tall 2-story buildings, that it would have and new construction is being built close to property lines, that the individual felt that it would have a significant impact on the neighborhood and the community. And so they disagreed with the staff's determination on that. And again, other folks expressed, some folks emailed asking just one for the appeal option, and another individual asked for to view the plan. So staff sent plans to the person, but no additional further detailed comments were received. If that is the end of my presentation, if there's any questions from council, and then I can address those questions. I did want to just clarify that this, being at this council, this is not a decision hearing for this project, that staff is collecting comments and which will be discussed there. The decision maker is by the zoning hearing officer, and staff will be collecting comments from this council meeting, doing research, and there will be a notification for the zoning hearing officer public meeting, and at which time there is opportunity with an appeal fee to appeal the project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Olivia. I see questions from council members. Councilmember Lopez, go ahead, Linda.
Yes, thank you, Olivia. Linda Lopez here. Olivia, and people have different memories, but I cannot remember any project coming through to the council that included a basement. I just, I think this is the first one, if I'm correct. My question about this particular project is around the flood zone. It's in your background document that it is identified as a zone X, whatever that is. But the identification was done back in 2012, a minimal flood hazard. So is that also going to be one of the documents you're going to research along with some of the other, like the soil study and that type of thing, mitigation plans?
So to respond to your first question, I don't recall off the top of my head that we have had
a basement.
Correct.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I can't speak to that we actually have. If we have, it's not very many.
Right.
And that's also the reason for one of the exceptions being requested for this project. Not knowing and with the understanding that because of as it was discussed in staff report, because of the size of the lot, because it's quite a bit less than the minimum requirement of 5,000 square feet, the applicant's desire to build on the parcel and to try and have as much habitable space, given the situation of the housing in the Bay Area, in our community but in general. And to answer in terms of the flooding, I did look into that in terms of the questions and response and concerns that were brought in. And the area in general, I did double check on that with my department. This area, if it has had flooding, which again, it sounds like from earlier in the meeting, it does have it. The area is not known to have it in the area. And I had just received the reports, the soils reports, et cetera. So I haven't had an opportunity to look at them, to read them. But I can also make those available to those who would like to review it.
Okay, very good. And then, so the other pending studies are going to be for all parties to have the copy of the soil study, possible mitigation plan during construction.
So that, I'm sorry.
And a dust control plan. And let's see, what else is there? I think that was it. Yeah.
Yes. So in terms of the construction vehicles, I will be talking to Public Works about that. They regulate that's their regulatory area of checking out and knowing what's happening on the right of way. Staff will be checking in to see what the regulations are that are in place to monitor that, and check in on explore what options we have in terms of trying to reduce impacts to the daycare business next door. And it is understandable, but we have to see what regulations are in place that we can try to work on that.
Okay, and I just comment that we want to look at that because the daycare center is operating under certain standards and they're licensed and permitted to do that. And so we don't want to interrupt that business. We don't want to provide an environment that's not safe or healthy for children. So yeah, so there's a number of things, but I thank you very much, Olivia, for your time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Councilmember Prado, Juan Carlos, you have a question?
Yes, my question is, I'm not clear on the percentage of the proposed square feet of the living space. Does it comply with the county's requirement?
Yes. So, sorry, I apologize. I did not include, or the grid is I had included in the staff report. Yes, but to answer your question, that's the correct. It complies with the footprint limit and with which footprint accounts for each habitable story. And then the lot coverage, which is a bird's eye view, it does comply with those restrictions.
Okay, so at this point, the exception would be the 3 feet instead of the 5 feet setback, and also one covered space. Is that correct?
So it's those two items, the daylight plane, which is a vertical limitation of building vertical. So there's that encroachment because instead of doing a typical pitched roof, they're doing a square roof. And then the exception also to allow the basement, because that qualifies as a story because the limit is 2 stories.
Got it. Thank you.
Are there any other questions from council members? I see none. I want to pick up on the 3 foot setback, Olivia. Does that establish a precedent that could theoretically be leveraged in future projects? I'm a little concerned about that as an exception to 5 feet.
Understandable. It does set a precedence. However, it makes a difference that based on our regulations, that the basis of for this project is because of the size of the parcel. And that is one of the lead significant factors in it's required to have the use permit in order to develop it because it's below the threshold of the 3,500 square feet. So, in the discussion of the report, it's I don't think the complete correct word is setting the precedence, but if it would have the allowance for other parcels in similar situations.
So substandard lot size, that sort of thing. Okay. Okay. And then what else did I have? I had a question about the, I believe it's an oak tree at the front of the property. It's very large. I understand it's not going to be removed, but I've seen several instances of homes being constructed in the area where a mature tree has died shortly after construction. And really it's the result of the disruption of the root system during construction. I'm wondering if an arborist has been out to assess the risk of damage to that tree. As you can see from the bird's eye view, it's a large tree, and I can't say whether it's heritage or protected or anything like that. But your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that is correct. It is a significant size tree. So I have an arborist report has been requested. It has not yet been completed and submitted, but the applicant is working on that, and it is required prior to a decision being issued on the project.
Okay. I see County Counsel Fox with his hand up. Tim, do you have something on this?
I thought I would offer a couple of words on the question of precedent, because I know that can be a confusing area for planning and building items that come before the council. At the risk of trying to kick all of planning and building into a nutshell, too small a nutshell, there are projects that can be built in an area categorically because they are within all the rules that are provided within the zoning district. And planners are trained to understand the difference between a project that can be built because the zoning allows the project to be built in the way proposed. And then there's another category of projects where, because of a unique circumstance or situation, special permission has to be sought. And that's what this case is, in essence, because there are elements of the project that are a little outside of the ordinary. It has to go through a use permit process to be built. And when you're talking about a use permit, it's really a question of, has the applicant proposed a project that can be allowed, even though it's a little outside the rules, on the unique circumstances of this case. So I don't want anyone to think that they need to start denying requests for use permits out of a concern that it will set a precedent that everybody else can get a use permit too. That's not true at all. You have to evaluate every individual application and its impact differently from all others, because all land is unique. It has different characteristics, different contexts, different settings. So precedent is something that you assert that you have the right to rely upon, and future applicants for use permits will have to make their own individual case for why their unique circumstances allow them to get a use permit. They can't point back to this situation as being a reason why they have the right to do the same thing on their property, because the rules simply don't work that way.
I really appreciate that explanation, Tim, because you read my mind with regard to the use of the word precedent and how it might apply in this case, as well as future cases. I see Councilmember Prado. Juan Carlos, you have your hand up. You have another question?
No, I do not. I need to lower it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other questions from council members? Okay, with that, we can open this up to public comment. Diana, do we have any public comment, please?
Yes, I do see a couple of hands raised. So at this time, if you wish to give a public comment, please raise your hand, and you will have 2 minutes, and I will put a timer on the screen. Okay, so I see 3 hands. Okay, we'll start off with Laura and then with Jennifer. And could we have the presenter stop sharing their screen so I could share the timer on my screen, please? Thank you. Okay, Laura, whenever you're ready.
Is that me, Laura?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. As it happened, I lived for 12 years on a couple of houses away from here, and I'm still in the neighborhood, although not on San Benito. And I have an interest in this because I know there's been a great deal of concern lately about larger, taller houses going in inappropriately spaced from the rest of the neighborhoods. And I do think that there is a concern here. I know that the council was actually instrumental in implementing the daylight plan back many years ago. And I had thought that the county was leaning towards hopefully trying to increase let's just say, make it more difficult to take away the daylight and to decrease crowding rather than increase crowding. So I understand this is a substandard lot, and I understand about the 3 feet, but 3 feet plus 2 stories, I think, is going to greatly impact the neighborhood in a negative way. I could see, it's great if you've got a basement, you've 1 story, you've already got your extra living space. To me, it seems like a small lot such as this would be an ideal candidate for a smaller, more affordable home, or perhaps even, I don't know, but a smaller, more affordable home, which is the kind of thing that we are trying to stem the loss of in our neighborhood, as a matter of fact, because we're losing those right and left. And so not only about the concerns about the tree and the daylight, but just the fact that it's so tall and so straight up and down, so close to the neighbors, I think is going to be an imposition and is going to be a problem for the neighbors and the character of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Okay, next will be Jennifer. Whenever you're ready. Jennifer. I believe I cannot hear you. Okay. Could you try one more time?
Hello?
Yes, okay, we can hear you now.
Go ahead. Okay, so thank you. And I will try to do it in 2 minutes. My name is Dalila Bernal, property owner of 635 San Benito Avenue, North Feroz, and the operator of the state licensed and San Mateo County approved family daycare that I has been operating since 2008. My questions are that are the flooding issue in the neighborhood. Has anybody built a basement recently in this area? I think you answered it partially. Has there been a soil study for the property at 647? What are the measures they will be taking to guarantee that my property won't be negatively affected by the digging work needed to build a basement that will be 10 feet from my house? If I have concerns or problems during the construction, who will I contact? According to the proposed plans, there is a balcony in front of the third floor that will take away our privacy in the front yard. We use the front yard for ongoing projects with the children. Are there mitigating plans for this? Parking has become an issue. How can I be sure parents will be able to drop off and pick up their children in a safety manner during construction on a 25 feet wide lot? How can I be assured that I will be able to provide a clean indoor and outdoor environment for their children during operation hours, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., having the fact that the construction will encroach not only our daylight, but the air we will be breathing in during the long period of time. During pandemic time and during work times, it is critical for the kids to be outdoor. Are there any plans to mitigate dust and noise during construction? How can I provide a safe indoor and outdoor environment for children and adults during the hours where demolition and construction materials won't be a hazard for us? More importantly, how can I provide a peaceful environment for children to have naps and quiet time Monday to Friday from 1 to 3 p.m.? Finally, my business has been impacted by the pandemic, making it difficult to keep the childcare service operating. With the huge disturbance the proposed construction project will pose on us, I'm concerned it will be a deterrent for potential clients to enroll their children with us and for the current enrolling parents to keep their children with us. This could be significantly impacting my livelihood. I look forward to your responses. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. I would like to do a last call for public comment on agenda item number 5.
Diana, there was a person in the chat who asked to speak.
Yes.
I don't know if you saw that. His screen name is Tony. He's in the attendees list.
Okay. Okay, Tony, I'm going to give you the permission to talk.
Over, like three. Just not quite.
Okay. Tony, I'm going to give you the permission to talk. Okay. Whenever you're ready.
Can you hear me? Check 1, 2.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate Olivia's thoroughness. Thank you, Olivia. I am concerned. A few years back, we had a house that was constructed west of the proposed house at 647. And during the demolition and during the sewer hookup, they had found that there was asbestos piping that went from the old structure to the new structure. Are there plans to do like air sampling when they do the digging? Because that's a lot of dirt they're going to be moving, and I'm sure they're going to have to do a sewer hookup. Obviously, it's concerning because again, with the childcare right across the street from my house and the childcare being right next to the build, I would say that there would be some kind of idea to have some kind of a air sampling program, some kind of hazmat program to at least monitor the air quality while the build is taking place if it gets approved. And also, I kind of agree with some of the other issues when it comes to the construction. Parking is already an issue on the San Benito Avenue. The easements are pretty well taken by the current residents. And it is I can foresee definite traffic issues because a lot of people cut through San Benito to get to Midfield off of Marsh. So just bringing those things up. I didn't hear anything about that. And thank you very much. I appreciate everybody's time.
Thank you very much, Tony. The asbestos issue is one that I hadn't heard before, Olivia. Could you offer a comment on that, or at least explain the process whereby air quality is monitored during a project like this?
Hi, thanks for the comments. I have not come across that for projects, so I will need to check with colleagues and management on how that's been approached, or how that's been approached.
Thank you.
Another way of answering the question, if I may, through the chair, is that
Please, Tim.
It's not a planning function. It may sound like because it's part of the planning for a project that the question of the planning permits would be the right time to talk about that. But the demolition of structures is something that's actually managed by our building department. And when a demolition permit is pulled, there are standards and practices that have to be followed before you take down a structure, including an evaluation of whether or not there is asbestos on the property. And the person doing the demolition is responsible for engaging the appropriate contractors if there is asbestos containing materials. But in general, we don't require, to my knowledge, setting up air monitoring on every construction site in the county. It's something that would only be done when there's something identified on the property that requires it. And that would be an evaluation done by the demolition contractor when the demolition permits are pulled.
Thank you, Tim. That's excellent background. Is there any other public comment on this agenda item?
I do not see any hands raised. I'll turn it over to our interpreter to see if there are any public comments on their end. Anna, are there any public comments on the phone line?
There are no public comments, sorry.
Okay, thank you, Anna. I see a hand raised by Laura. If just a clarification question, is someone who already shared a public comment able to share another public comment?
I do not believe so. County Counsel Fox, am I correct in that? You're on mute, Tim, sorry. I still have you on mute, Tim. We can't hear you.
The question of how to regulate public comments generally a matter for the body to decide for itself, but generally other bodies, the county bodies generally allow each commenter to comment once.
Okay. Okay, thank you. You can submit a written question, Laura, to the planner, that kind of thing.
Okay. I see Councilmember Linda's hand up.
Councilmember Lopez, go ahead.
Through the chair, are we going to hear another comment? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, the question was whether public comment, whether more than one public comment can be made by a member of the public.
Okay.
And typically we limit it to one comment per person per agenda item.
But is there one person that's waiting to make another comment regarding this particular permit?
We had a question from Laura Kaplan. Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, can we just hear it, please? May as well.
That would be fine. Let's go ahead. Laura, please. And Diana, if you would unmute Laura's mic.
Yes. Sure.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I'm sorry, I made the point in chat, so I didn't really plan to talk again because I put it in the chat, but it looked like no one had seen it. So that's all. Can you see?
Yes, I do.
Okay, that's all. I'll leave that to you.
And in fact, parking was brought up as well. So that's good.
Thank you. Thank you. So there seems to be no public comment. Back to you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. I think at this point we need a motion to recommend the non-conforming use permit. Do I hear a motion from a council member? Councilmember Lopez, go ahead, Linda.
I make a motion that the council not provide a recommendation on the non-conforming use permit.
Okay, I'm going to defer to council on that. I don't know if we have that option. Tim?
That is a valid motion under the circumstances. This is your opportunity to provide input to the county decision makers on the item, but if you don't have a recommendation, you can just not take action tonight.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Do we have a second for that motion?
I second.
Very good, Beatrice. We need a roll call vote then.
Okay. Okay, so the first motion was it by Chair Brooks?
It was by Linda.
Okay, by Linda Rivas. And then the second motion by Councilmember Beatriz Sevilla.
Yes.
Beatrice seconded.
Okay, so I will start with roll call. Councilmember Juan Carlos Prado,
Yes.
Councilmember Beatriz Sevilla,
A clarification, this is on the motion to not take action, correct?
The motion is essentially to not make a recommendation on the item.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Yes.
Councilmember Johnny Gillespie. Absent. Councilmember Linda Lopez.
Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Everardo Rodriguez is absent. Councilmember Jennifer Ruiz.
Yes.
Councilmember Blair Whitney.
Yes.
And Youth Councilmember Gabriela Eke.
Yes.
And Chair Brooks as well.
Yes.
Recording in progress.
Okay, motion passes with 7 votes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Final agenda item for this evening is recommendation, consideration of an amendment to a non-conforming use permit, adoption of a supplemental negative declaration to increase the maximum number of students enrolled at the existing Synapse School facility from 260 to 310, located at 3375 Edison Way in the unincorporated area of North Fair Oaks. The non-conforming use permit includes the request for an off-street parking exception to reduce the number of required on-site parking spaces from 128 spaces to 60 spaces. That presentation is going to be given by Kanoa Kelly, who's a planner in planning and building. Kanoa, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. Let me just share my screen here, get it going. All right, good evening, Council. So as you said, this is item number 6, and you're providing a recommendation to the ZHO for the consideration of a use permit amendment for Synapse School. And we'll go over the specific amendments they're asking for. They're seeking amendment to increase the maximum student capacity. The previous use permit was 260 students. They want to increase that to 310 students. And it also includes a request for an off-street parking exception to reduce the number of required parking spaces from 128, which was the previously approved permit, to 60. And there are also some minor interior changes that were documented in the staff report that as part of the project as well. And it's just expansion to a few of the classrooms and some exterior windows that are changing. As Wes said, this is located at 3375 Edison Way, North Fair Oaks. You can see it's right off Edison Way here. There's an overview. And this is the zoning. As you can see, it's M1 Edison NFO, and it's flanked by some R3, mostly R1, so residential neighborhood surrounding this parcel. Here's a view from the street there. You can see the drop-off location. And I just wanted to show this. So this was the previously approved plan. So this is that 128 parking spaces we were talking about. You can see there are quite a few little parking lots. They have one for staff. They had this one. They had this drop-off area here, and then some other parking spaces here. Quite a lot of curb cuts, a lot of different compartmentalized parking spaces here. So this was the originally approved plan, just for reference. And here is the current proposal. So you can see these are, this darkened area here is the kind of the fire turnaround lanes for fire safety. They've connected these parking spaces here. They've widened this lane so you have a drop-off area here for parents, and you have the ability to kind of go around them here and continue down and out onto Edison Way. What they've tried to do is increase the kind of flow of traffic and the circulation on site there. So they've reconfigured this. And they've also proposed reducing parking spaces to allow some additional play area for their kids. So you can see in the previous one here, between the buildings was all parking, and now they want to turn this into a play yard here for the kids, and over here as well in this section. And additionally, they want to increase the student capacity from 260 to 310 students. So we can go over the project compliance. On the previously approved use permit, there were mitigation measures and conditions that they were required to follow. And one of them was installing a refuge lane on Marsh Road to alleviate some of the traffic impacts there. They were required to implement a shuttle program to shuttle students back and forth to decrease traffic there as well. And they're required to provide 2 traffic counts annually to give the county an idea of whether or not they're complying with the trip cap that is part of the mitigation measures. So we have a trip cap of 275 peak AM trips was the previously approved number. Because they're increasing the student capacity, the traffic study that was provided recommended an increase to 298 trips. And the traffic study also concluded that the level of service at key intersections that were studied would, with the certain mitigation measures that were already implemented previously, they're going to continue to implement, would be reduced to less than 4 seconds, with a continuation of the mitigation measures there. So no significant adverse impacts are anticipated with the increase in student capacity. So these were their trip generation numbers. Just quickly, they averaged AM peak hour trips over a 3-day period that they were studied in 2018, 2019. And this is all in a traffic study. So we just wanted to go over the mitigation measures that they will continue to implement. Again, those biannual traffic counts are required. If the school, just for your information, if the school is out of compliance, that means they go over that cap. There's a lot of problems with cars backing up onto Edison Avenue, things like that. The school will have to submit a TDM, or a Transportation Demand Management Program. So they'll have 30 days to create the program in consultation with traffic consultants, and then we'll have another 30 days to implement that program. And then we'll continue to monitor the progress, and if they're still out of compliance, then they're required, or if compliance is not feasible, they are required to reduce student capacity. So that is built into the use permit. That is a requirement. Was a requirement before, and we're gonna and all of the mitigation measures and the conditions from the previous use permit will carry over. So the school also will have to have traffic monitors at peak drop-off and pickup times to ensure that traffic is moving along. There's no backups. And they're required to continue to expand, to implement and expand their shuttle programs. You can see it right now, it serves 87 students in the morning, 36 students in the afternoon when they're going home. And this slide is just for your information. Part of the North Fair Oaks community plan, they do have parking requirements in the North Fair Oaks community plan, and this is the total parking that would be required per that plan. So around 94 spaces would be required, looking at the North Fair Oaks community plan regulations. So the zoning regulations in 2019, schools are now permitted in the M1 Edison NFO. Previously, a determination was made that it was a non-conforming use and it was compatible with the area. Now our zoning code has been updated, and schools in this zone require a use permit. So it's in compliance with our zoning regulations. And for environmental review, the initial study was adopted by the Planning Commission in 2017. And after review of the traffic study for the proposed amendment, the county has concluded that an addendum is appropriate for this project, and it will not result in any substantial changes or new or significant impacts to the previously adopted initial study and mitigated negative declaration. So a recommendation is that the North Fair Oaks Community Council provide a recommendation to the zoning hearing officer on the proposed use permit amendment. That can be a recommendation to approve the use permit amendment, deny it, approve parts of the amendment. We need your feedback on for ZHO, and it will also inform the staff's recommendation to ZHO. And just for everyone who's listening, the ZHO hearing for this project is scheduled for February 17th. So it's coming up. At that time, you'll also be able to speak. We will be sending out the notifications for that shortly. My contact information will be on there, and you'll be able to send me your feedback and also attend the hearing there if you'd like. That concludes my presentation, and I believe the applicants had a small presentation that they'd like to present to give you a little bit of detail on the project.
Great, thanks, Kanoa. This is Jim Egan. Can you see me?
Jim, oh, here, let me see if I can unshare here.
Hi, everybody. I'm head of Synapse School. I'm Jim, and I'm going to share my screen too here. And I know it's been a long night, so I'll try to make it quick. So I'm Jim, head of school, Synapse. We've been in the community over a decade, just in case there are new people to the neighborhood. I'm going into my 10th year as head of school. Love doing what I do, and I love being in North Fair Oaks. Our school is a private school. What we are is a K-8 independent school. Why do we exist? We are here to shape, educate, and inspire people to make positive change, kids and adults, parents and staff too. And we do this by teaching SEL, social emotional learning, first and foremost. The ideas around innovation and then leading edge academics. And I'll get into that quickly. So our mission, all independent schools have a mission, right? Just like universities. We're educating a community of change makers. And what we mean by change makers, kids have to be prepared academically, they have to be prepared socially and emotionally, and they have to think creatively. And so we take those three areas and we sort of equally distribute them throughout days and weeks. And our vision is to inspire and aspire to be that model, that beacon for all other schools who are trying to make change, trying to rethink education, that we can be that beacon and inspire others and also be somewhat of a laboratory. And one way we do that, instead of assessing kids with your traditional grade systems, we're assessing them on learning outcomes or habits of mind. Some of them are right here, the 9 of them: communication, creativity, advocacy. And we talk to lots of schools, public and private, about what we're doing to reimagine, I think, a more holistic approach to a child and looking at them not simply as letter grades or number grades. And see 6 aspects, or 5, excuse me, here that are really paramount to our culture. A lot of people talk about our culture, that we're very values-based. I'll get into those quickly. Teachers at our school have a lot of freedom, but that means they also have a lot of responsibility. We care about our relationships. Most schools do. Ours is probably even more heavily relational. We're very intentional, and we believe behavior and attitudes matter throughout our buildings. And so some of our values, which we really try to stand by each and every day and in everything we do, we make and honor ambitious commitments, right? We're very ambitious in what we want to do, and we understand this is going to take co-creation within our school, but also within our communities around us, right, North Fair Oaks. So we honor those commitments. We take them very seriously. We start by giving the benefit of the doubt in every situation. When the kid messes up on the playground, it's not a punitive response first. It's like, okay, what happened? If a teacher makes a mistake, same thing. What happened? Let's give the benefit of the doubt. We're also exceptionally positive in all we're trying to do and model for kids. And we take care of ourselves and each other. That's a big piece of what we do as well. We especially during the pandemic, this has been a value that's made a lot of sense to us and most others. And some key aspects about our school that make us different: we have a Brainwave Learning Center. This is a partnership with Stanford, where we do look at the research around teaching and learning and the brain. This is a really novel endeavor. There are not a lot of schools that have relationships such as this. This has been with us about 4 or 5 years now. We have a makerspace. It's about 11,000 square feet. All of our kids are essentially being taught how to create in a wood shop. So some of us had wood shop when we were kids. We've decided to implement that at our school as well, which is pretty exciting for those that are in there. Kids love it. And we also have a learning center, right? So not all of our kids are going to be what we'd say neurotypical. Most school communities, 15% of them or so are going to have kids with learning disabilities. Our kids are young, and so these emerge. And so we've created a learning center for those with language-based learning disabilities, so we can support them as well. And we in our proposal, we're talking about adding a pre-K. We'd like to start with a small transitional kindergarten, so a young 5s. And so the concept is to have 4 and 5-year-olds to be the first ones to come to campus. And we're thinking it would really just be a small 10 to 15 student cohort for sure. So we're also a school that's thinking about the public, right? So I talk about this often with my teachers. We're a private school with a public purpose. And our vision really indicates that. We're trying to help other schools understand what's going on in teaching and learning. And our lab school orientation makes that happen. But we also understand as a private school, there's tuition, right? And so we've really dedicated ourselves. Here's a little graph that shows you how much we've given over the past 4 or 5 years. This year, the 21-22 school year, we have allocated in financial assistance about $1.4 million. And so and I think we've increased it by increased the percentage of students receiving assistance to about 40 to 44%. And we're really excited about that. And as the cost of living goes up around here, this is going to be essential to us. So our basic project, you heard from Kanoa, he did a nice job. We want to increase enrollment to 310, and then in conjunction, bring our parking in line with the documented demand. And so we do have a parking and traffic policy. Here it is. Because sometimes this is asked of us. So we have a policy. Parents understand this. Our teachers understand this. We have a lot right in front of our buildings that is there. Kanoa showed you it as well. We're very clear with our parents, don't park on the streets, no double parking, do not block Synapse and neighborhood driveways. I had a parent who was looking at the school today come in and I saw them pull up on the street. I immediately went out, told them, you got to move, you got to go to the overflow lot of our sports house. And so we're aware of the situation of cars. If you see behind me, there's a bicycle. I don't own a car. I'm not a big fan of cars. So I'm with you on that. And we're doing everything we can in our power to mitigate the traffic problems that we all are facing. I wanted to point out also, we're a small school, as you saw the enrollment, right? The cap is 260. How big are other K-8s? In case you're just not familiar. So I put a few schools here. Keys School is a private school in Palo Alto. It's 320. Garfield School nearby, 800 plus. Woodland School is another K-8. It's up towards Portola Valley. That's over 400 kids. And then Nativity School, which is a Catholic school, is over 300 as well. So we are perhaps the smallest K-8 you will find around. So why early childhood education? That may be a question people are asking. We started off with a kindergarten. So we're fond of the youngest kids. We considered ourselves sort of experts in this area, early childhood educators at heart. We have increased demand and desire from our parent and also the parents in our broader community, right? They want a family school option. They want a one-drop option. Again, that's going to benefit the whole region in terms of traffic. And we're a lab school. So our vision is to extend our reach and impact on reimagining education and teaching and learning. And we want to reach down rather than reach up. And so by increasing our enrollment, there's a few things we can really do. We can expand the programming for our kids in more meaningful ways, right? 1. 2, we can increase compensation for staff. I don't think there's any doubt by anybody that teachers should be paid more. It's an incredibly noble profession, but it's exhausting and hard one too. And so we can pay teachers and staff more and compensate. And we can also offer more financial aid. That's always something that stretches our budget. We've done a great job, but we want to keep adding more financial assistance to families that need it. We can increase safety measures within our community and our facility, and we can develop new programs and partnerships, not only within Synapse itself, but also in North Fair Oaks and beyond. That's a big part of what we were trying to do. And so I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to pass this over to Bob Baer, who's the Chief Operating Officer and understands the parking and traffic better than anybody else. Bob, you're up.
All right. Thank you, Jim. And good evening, Council. And thank you for letting us present to you. I want to start by talking about the outside areas and the parking areas, because I know there was some specific questions. And I'm going to kind of take a step back. 2 years ago when COVID hit, we knew we had to do something to keep the kids safe, and we wanted to keep the school open. So we very quickly modified our outside areas by adding a number of outside tents and turf to different parking lots so we could get the kids outside. And we've successfully kept the school open for the solid 2 years and kept the kids safe. So in a sense, we've actually been operating in the design that you see out there, because since we needed to quickly modify things, we've been working with 60 parking spaces right now. So the community is not really going to see any changes if this is allowed for us to go forward, because we're working with that many parking spaces as it is. In addition to that, Synapse had an independent traffic study done by Hexagon Engineering that supports our request for the change to the 60 parking spaces. And that's included in part of the report that Kanoa had mentioned. So again, I want to kind of stress that the community is not going to see any difference in what we have going on right now. We've got a lot of outside additional spaces for the kids. The outside tents are still there. The parking has been reconfigured. The drop-off zone is a lot more efficient to get kids in and out. And we also believe that we're adhering to the North Fair Oaks community. I believe it is goal 3.5, where we want to have enough parking spaces that are required, but not have excessive amount of parking spaces. So we really believe we're at that point. I thank you for your time. We have a number of people here from the Synapse team in terms of architects and other people that can talk about stuff if there are questions to the community. But we look forward to moving forward and being a good part of the community. That's it.
Very good. Thank you. Do we have any questions from council members for either planning or the Synapse team? Councilmember Lopez. Linda, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Synapse, for your presentation. My question is around the shuttle. The numbers that I saw or read were that of the current 260 child enrollment, only half, a little bit more than half, use the shuttle. What's the purpose of the shuttle? And is there some way to increase the shuttle? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Linda. I'll chime in first. This is Jim. We're always trying to increase the shuttle. Like we incentivize our parents. We actually subsidize it, right? So it's a significant cost. But we really want to increase that ridership for sure. The purpose of the shuttle is obviously it's to mitigate traffic, but it's also to help families who don't want to drive to school, right? So we have multiple shuttles coming from the south and the north, but we're always trying to increase ridership. Honestly, it was tricky the past couple of years with COVID. People were not excited to put their kids in confined spaces for very long, but this is something we work on all the time.
Thank you.
Are there other questions from council members? I see none right now, so I'm going to go ahead and ask about the refuge lane. I'm not sure I understand what that is, and if someone can help me out with that, I'd appreciate it. The refuge lane on Marsh.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so we're talking about that. Yeah, absolutely. So when we did our first conditional use permit, one of the requirements was for us to add basically a turn lane on Marsh Road. So that's already been added. That's been there for probably 2 years. So Synapse paid to have that, striped and put on, and now we can have a turn lane from Marsh Road. I believe it's into North Fair Oaks Avenue, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, that's been there for a while. It works really well. I use it all the time when I come in. So.
Okay. Other questions from council members? Councilmember Cerrillo. Beatrice, go ahead.
When was the last, just so I could understand, the last date that a traffic study was held or done? Well, what year was that?
Bob, you can take that too.
So I could take that one too. So unfortunately, COVID got in the way of our last official traffic study. We were supposed to do one in March, I believe it was March of when COVID started. Mm-hmm. And once that happened, the schools actually we went into distance learning for a couple of months, so we couldn't do it. We could have done a traffic study, but obviously wouldn't have been applicable. And it really hasn't been applicable the whole time. So we have not done a traffic study up until this point. I think the last one was either 2020 or 2019.
I think it's 2019. I just read something.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we had done that traffic study last year, we would have come in way under count. We would have looked. It would have been wonderful for us, but it wouldn't have been a fair representation, actually.
Oh, thank you.
Are there other questions from council members?
Oh, I still have my hand up through the chair.
An additional question, Linda?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, please.
So the concerns that I received about this particular use permit application, it's not targeting the enrollment, the increase in enrollment. It's strictly around the parking. So with the history that the school has had in assuring the neighborhood that there would be little disruption, and a willingness to work together on this issue. We at the council level have not received complaints about that over the years. So all we can assume is that things are going well. But today in 2022, this new application is bringing some of those old concerns back. So I just wanted to make the comment, it's not really a question, that it's not about the number of students that are going to be increased. It's about the traffic. So I think the efforts to utilize the shuttle are even more important, and reaching out to the neighborhood, your surrounding neighbors, to make sure that, there's a good thing going, because you guys are doing great work. The school has been doing wonderful work, and it's just a matter of finding the balance there, so that everybody's happy. But anyway, no question, just comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. I appreciate that comment. And and you're recognizing that we are trying to reach out as much as possible. And again, COVID has made that tougher for us in the past for everybody the past couple of years, for sure. But that's what we always intend to do, and we want to do. And we love, like I said, we love being in North Fair Oaks, and we benefit from it as well.
So, and Jim, if I might add, and I appreciate everybody's concern about the parking, and we've always been concerned about parking from day one, but between the traffic study that we have that supports the reduction down to 60, and just watching how the parking lot is used on a day-to-day basis, we never fill it up. So it's really not, it's not something that we're seeing as an issue. And during COVID, because we did modify the classrooms and take up some of the outside spaces, we've been operating at the 60 parking limit probably for a year and a half. So I can't stress enough that you're not going to see there's not going to be any parking lots or parking spaces taken away. If this is permitted to go forward, it's going to be just like it is.
Kind of as a follow-up to that, Bob, I went up this afternoon, and I guess I got there around 5 after 3, 10 after 3, and stayed through the whole cycle of coming and going and stuff. And quite honestly, it looked really well organized. I mean, there are adults out in the lot supervising the cars as they come in. There are enough adults there to keep an eye on the kids, so it doesn't look like they're in any danger and that sort of thing. Couple of things. For about a 10-minute period from 3:20 until say 3:30, 3:35, we had cars backed up on Edison, and it's unavoidable, I guess, given that an awful lot of the kids are getting out at that time. The point and the question that I have is, the lot looked pretty full to me, and I guess I'm wondering, given that we're going to have 60 more students theoretically, do you expect an increase in staff that might cause a parking problem? Given you've got limited space in that lot right now, and it to me it appeared fairly full today. I don't know.
Yeah, Bob, I could probably take it and you could follow it.
Yeah,
those are good questions. And so if you came today, there were also after school providers that were dropping off materials at the time, at that exact time, and then they will go. So there's a little bit of flux there. We're not going to be hiring a lot. We'll be hiring 2 transitional kindergarten teachers if this goes forward, but we won't be hiring any additional teachers at this point. If my staff were here, or maybe some are even on, they hear me say this all the time. We have an incredible number of teachers. Lots of schools are suffering during COVID because they need subs. We don't have that problem because we have 2 teachers in every classroom and about 15 to 16 kids per class with lots of specialists. So we're actually trying to fill out the enrollment to match the staffing, right? We have excess staffing. So there's no plan to add additional elementary school teachers or language teachers or PE teachers or anything of that sort. For the early childhood, there'll be two additional.
Okay. And just finally for me anyway, you've got the smaller lot there that I believe holds about 12, 14 cars, something like that. Is the plan for that one to go away as well? So the only lot you'll have is the one that shares space, if you will, with the pickup area going
right forward. That lot between what we call it's 3375, what is that, building 3 and building 4.
Building 3 and building 4, yeah,
that's right.
That will not be going away. That's going to stay there.
That's going to be parking. Okay, I thought I saw on the maps that was going to be used for something else, but no. Okay,
not those spaces in front of the gate. No.
Okay, Councilmember Lopez, Linda, you have a question?
No, I'm sorry, I didn't put my hand down.
Okay.
Sorry.
And then Councilmember Cerrillo, Beatrice.
Yes. Do all the is there is like quote unquote the AM start time for all students, or is it staggered? And would that help mitigate parking and drop off? And also in the PM, do they all get out at the same time? Are the preschoolers half a day? So is there the drop off and pickup? Is it constant? Even though it could be constant, the flow might be just kind of ongoing and not backed up. That's my question about the start and end times for different students.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's something we're always adapting to try to really mitigate any issues that are coming up. So in the morning, it's a wider window, 8:15 to 8:45. So all the kids are arriving during that half-hour window. It's a soft start. We don't have any bells ringing. Like that's part of it too. So that helps quite a bit. You can come 8:15 or you can come at 8:45 in that window. Okay. And then in the afternoons, they are staggered. Lower school is 3:05 start, and then the middle school is 3:20. And so where there sometimes can be issues, and Brooks solved today, is when you have a parent picking up lower school and middle school. And so there's a 10-minute, just be honest, sometimes there's a 10-minute problem.
Right. Yeah. Oh, okay. Right. Yeah. All schools have like a 10-15 minute like backup just because it's drop off and pick up.
Yeah. And we do, I mean, you met and Brooks, all our staff, we literally every single one of our teachers is on pickup duty. Every single teacher is outside either manning a phone or something or shuttling kids to cars. It's quite an operation, actually.
Yes, it is. Oh, thank you.
And if I might add one thing, we are continually trying to educate the parents on best times to pick up. And one of the surprising things is if they would come a little bit later in the cycle, you could just zip through and pick the kids out. But some of it is parents are driving a far distance away. They don't know where to park. We don't want them to park and wait. But we have been trying to educate some of the parents where a little bit later would be better. So it's a continuous process for us.
Yes. Thank you.
Are there any other questions from council members? Okay, seeing none, is there public comment on this item?
During this time, members of the public, if you wish to comment on agenda item number 6, a consideration of an amendment to a non-conforming use permit at Synapse School facility, please raise your hand now. Okay, I do see a few hands, so I will start off with Jennifer and then Laura. So let me get the timer on the screen. Okay, Jennifer, when you're ready.
Hello. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, my name is Jennifer Booker, and our family has had the pleasure of being a part of the Synapse community for the past 5 years. Our oldest child, Colin, started at Synapse in kindergarten, and the supportive and inclusive environment has really allowed him to grow, not only as a student, but also as a friend and hopefully an eventual change maker. The Synapse community really means a lot to our family. We're not from the Bay Area, so we are out here by ourselves. And it has been very important for our family to find a place where our children could feel comfortable. I know that next year we have the potential of having our youngest child, Cara, who actually will turn 4 on Saturday, to experience the same supportive environment. Yeah, early childhood education is so important to us, and it's important to her, and hopefully she'll be able to, start that extra year in transitional kindergarten to allow her to grow as a student and hopefully the leader that we hope that she'll become within our family. And one thing I do want to note, since I'm an active parent and I'm there. And Jim and Bob didn't mention this, but there is an aftercare program. And so, I'm a mom and I work full time. And so I am a 8:15 in the morning drop off, and I usually will pick up my son at 5 p.m. And so I'm actually missing a lot of the traffic that happens at the 3 p.m. time period. So I really thank the North Fair Oaks Community Council for considering Synapse's proposal and, looking forward, hopefully fingers crossed, for our daughter to join the TK program next year. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, next we will allow Laura. Okay, when you're ready.
Hello, I am, I spoke before, I am interested in the outdoor play areas. They look very nice on the website. I'm connected with the neighborhood group FOBA that manages the local community park at Fair Oaks and Edison. And I do know that some of the school groups do take advantage with the students, either aftercare programs or during school, of that park. And I didn't know if Synapse students were part of that. I was just curious if they ever come down the 3 blocks and make use of our park. I would love to hear the answer to that, but since I only have a moment here, I'll just also say that if there is any opportunity, we would love to collaborate with the school because we do provide an outdoor play space that is adjacent, and we are a community all volunteer supported park. So I'd love to figure out, again, how we could work together in supporting. We actually have a couple of parks, but the one that is closest is the one 3 blocks away that has the playground. So I don't know if that's something you can tell me, that whether the students use that space at all.
Am I allowed to answer? I want to follow protocol.
Please do.
Yeah. Thanks, Laura. We haven't, again, COVID has sort of caused us to be cautious going around anywhere, but we have in the past. We're always trying to be mindful to not overwhelm the park if there are people down there. But we have taken kids down there. They love it. The young kids do love it. And I think in the past we actually have helped try to beautify it. And whenever there's a need, and we've been asked in the past about certain things that could use help and resources, we would love to even do more partnership with you. So I appreciate you making that comment.
So in that case, let me know how we can get in contact and to do that, because we're always looking for resources, both to help beautify, sort of clean up, as you mentioned. No one, we don't have any staff, and we don't have any paid staff, and we also are not a city or county or state supported park. So we're always just looking for donations and volunteers, and love to work together. So let me know how.
Great. You can always find me on the website, but I'll find you. I have your name now. I'll reach out to you.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's get the next person. Let's see. Okay, next. I think I accidentally removed someone. Okay, we will go with Gary and then Jeremy. And Gary, when you are ready.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to talk. And I just want to put a fine point on, I think, a comment that the chairman made about his observations of the pickup and the queues that happen throughout the day. So I'm a longtime resident, North Fair Oaks, been a resident for over 30 years. My home's about 100 yards from the front door of Synapse. Best thing that ever happened to North Fair Oaks, by the way. When we purchased the property, it was a neighborhood in transition at the time. I remember talking to my wife, wondering whether this was something that was going to be a good thing or a bad thing for us in terms of property investment in an area to raise our children. At the time, I think there were some chop shops down the street. Lycus wasn't in place. Sports House wasn't in place. Synapse certainly wasn't in place. So the neighborhood really has come up significantly as a result of what Synapse has done, children in the neighborhood, the livelihood, et cetera. As a semi-retired individual in the neighborhood, I see the queues every day, not a problem. My children, before Synapse was around, attended nativity school, and as Jim noted, about the similar number of attendants. For any of those of you who have gone up Santa Cruz Avenue up in front of nativity during drop off or pickup time, you're probably very familiar with the queue situation up there. I've never seen anything come close to that at Synapse. So really not an issue from a residential perspective. Wanted to share that and hope that the board will see fit to approve this permit to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we will go with Jeremy. Okay, since they are not available anymore, we will go with, there are two Marys, so we will go with Mary first, and then Mary D. Whenever you're ready.
Hi, I think this is the right Mary. Is this correct? You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, well, actually, it was perfect that you called on me next because I am also a resident of North Fair Oaks for the past 20 plus years. I don't live quite as close as Gary, but I live off of 9th. And I have to say, I didn't even know Synapse existed and was down the street for me for about the first 5, 6, 7 years. Because there was no impact to our neighborhood at all. I agree with Gary. I did move in after Rykus was there, but there were quite a few industrial buildings, et cetera. And Synapse has done nothing but upgrade our neighborhood and brought families into our neighborhood who are respectful, community-driven, and family-oriented people. I often see them walking the streets. We chat. There were community gardens planted a few years back on some of our streets that I got to partake in and got, free lettuce, et cetera. I do walk down Edison every day to and from my place of work. I have never seen a backup in the mornings. I have seen the backup in the afternoons whereby I see the entire faculty standing in the parking lot and on the street trying to get parents to move along. I appreciate this backup actually because it slows down the traffic on Edison where all those trucks and cars are trying to hit me as I walk by. I think they think I'm like a target and they're trying to see how fast they can go around those cement center dividers and try to see how close they can get. They're certainly not 3 feet away from me. So I actually appreciate the backup because it slows people down a little bit. So I fully support the expansion. I also, because I walk back from work at night in the dark, I notice the trucks parked along that are the same trucks that are there in the morning. So I don't think that parking is going to be impacted. So I fully support it.
Thank you for your comment. Okay. Mary D and then Dean Paleologos. Okay. When you are ready.
It's actually May Duong.
Okay. Oh, I apologize.
No worries. No. I just want to also share that I am a resident here in North Fair Oaks, and we are a family at Synapse, and we've been there for 10 years. I have 2 sons that attend. One graduated and is in high school now, and I have another son who's in 7th grade right now, and he rides his bike to school, and I walk to school, and we just love being so close to the school, and just love being in North Fair Oaks as well. And whenever we can at the school, I help to organize some of the annual cleanups that we do in North Fair Oaks. And I'm also a very active part of the parent community and have organized assemblies with students to learn more about the homeless situation in North Fair Oaks. And we have put together kits for the community. And so I just really want to chime in and say that I agree with what Mary said about how Synapse has brought in a lot of families who really care about the community and want to give back. And one of our we have, as Jim said, have an SEL program, and one of the big pieces of the SEL program is an area called Give Yourself. And so that is something that we are very focused on as a parent community to make sure that we give back to the to North Fair Oaks area. So just wanted to share that, and I fully support the request for the permit. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we will go with Dean Paleologos. Okay, when you're ready.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Dean Paleologos, and I live at 635 8th Avenue, and that's within 300 feet of the proposed non-conforming permit use. And so I'm not very familiar with how all these things work, but I've talked to a few other neighbors within 300 feet and really not too excited about this. And if you look at it, North Fair Oaks Council was created a while ago, back in the 80s, and when I bought my house there, for traffic. The whole point is, and if you look at what they're requesting, from what I see from the notes, it's from 144 parking spaces to 60. Okay, so you can twist it any way you want. And you can say, I'm gonna manage it like Jim's saying, well, I'm gonna be able to be out there. He's not gonna be able to do that. He can't control that. It's a dynamic thing. It happens all the time. And then we're sitting with cars backed up on 8th Avenue, really breathing their exhaust, can't back out of our driveways. So, I appreciate the school. I think what he's doing is great. But bottom line is, they're about growth. And you know what? What they need to do is find the facility that's appropriate for what their needs are. He's so focused on, proposing what his school does. I mean, that's great, but we're talking parking. I don't hear much about parking. And not only that, the kids need places. Instead of having to put tents up in the parking area, why don't they find a nice facility and to grow, and then they have the future growth and they have the correct facilities? It just doesn't really make a lot of sense. So, I appreciate everything that everybody's doing. And I wish Kanoa would have gotten back to me. I've tried to reach him on many occasions. I don't know what else to do, and thank you for your time. I appreciate you, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I believe, okay, we have one more, Joan Mo.
We have Jeremy in queue as well, Diana.
Okay, yes, Jeremy. Okay, we'll go with Janine and then Jeremy next.
Hi, this is Joanne, and I lived in the neighborhood also for over 30 years, very close to the school, and I'm fortunate enough to be an employee at the school for the last 6 years. I feel that Synapse has a lot of good changes to the neighborhood. A lot of our neighbors and our friends remark about what a great school it is when they find out information about it, when they look it up. I'm super happy to be there. I am one of the staff members that is outside in the afternoons helping with traffic control. The most that traffic backs up in the afternoon is a 5 to 10 minute time span. And we are all diligently working on getting everybody, quickly in and loaded up and out again. I strongly do hope that you will issue us the CUP permit, because I think Synapse has done some wonderful things for the neighborhood, for the kids in the neighborhood, and we have a close connection with the sheriff's department. We have our officers who are resource officers who we work with closely. Anytime we have any type of an event or where we think there's going to be parents coming on campus and that might impact the traffic flow, we call them, we let them know so that they're aware of it. And I was just in contact with them a couple of weeks ago, asked them if there's any issues in the neighborhood that we should know about as far as any complaints about the school or traffic. And they said nothing's come in, that nobody's complaining, that things are, going smoothly. And we continue to work really hard to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's allow Jeremy the opportunity to give his public comment. I'm not able to give access to Jeremy. I don't know if another co-host wants to try. I'm getting an error.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right, thank you. My name is Jeremy. First of all, thank you to council members. I appreciate your public service. As a politics major many years ago, I rather enjoyed my evening, so thanks for providing that for me. I work at the Rikers Center right next door to Synapse. I've been there since 1999. The Rikers Center's been in Fair Oaks area since 1997. I used to be a resident of Fair Oaks actually for a while, but I'm not right now. Anyway, I want to speak on behalf of Synapse as a great neighbor. I think that as a nature background that we have to recognize that everything has an impact, but it's how that impact is represented in the world. And I think that Synapse and Jim's leadership allows for this impact to be something that goes it's recognized, and there's communication around it, and they're able to talk to neighbors, and they're able to do their best to make it so that impact is lessened if possible, and also softened when possible. And as neighbors who also have students coming and going, I know that there's some traffic issues and parking issues that have come up over the years with the Rikers Center, and Synapse has helped us in some ways on those things, especially when we have events on weekends, letting us use their parking for overflow parking when we have the occasional donor event that happens throughout the year. So Synapse is a great neighbor. I can't imagine what the alternative would be. I'm sure there'd still be some impact from that alternative, and we might be having a totally different discussion around what they would be bringing. And I know that Synapse works with students who can't drive. I don't imagine the increase in students is going to impact much by way of cars and parking. So all for Synapse getting their permit, and I thank you again, council members, for your time.
Thank you. So we have Kamas. I'll give you the permission to talk.
Okay, good evening, council members. My name is Camus Steinmetz. I'm on the Synapse team. I'm land use council. I don't know if now is the appropriate time to speak or if we'll have time to respond to comments at the end.
Please go ahead.
Okay, so I just first wanted to speak to the comment about the location of Synapse School and, point out that since Synapse has been there, there's been the preparation and the adoption of the North Fair Oaks Community Plan, which specifically allows for schools now where the school is located. So it is an allowable use with a use permit. And also point out that other allowable uses on the site, which is 2.6 acres, would include residential uses, commercial uses, institutional uses, and industrial uses. And under the North Fair Oaks Community Plan, the development standards in Table 2.4, if you're to look at what else might be on that site, there could be 110 residential units, 103,000 square feet of commercial space, 141,000 square feet of institutional space, or 103,000 square feet of industrial space. And that's in comparison to the existing buildings on the site, which are approximately 76,000 square feet. So you could be looking at more than double what's already there. And I think Bob will speak to some of the parking comments that were raised.
Thank you.
We have, Diana, we have Ludmila Vasa, who's actually in the room as a panelist who wanted to make a comment as well.
Sure. Do they need permission to talk?
No, I believe she is in the room and
Hello.
can speak. There she is.
Hi, everybody. So my name is Ludmila, and I just wanted to say that I am a parent at Synapse School, and we are a potential family for transitional kindergarten. And I myself am an early childhood educator and have been for many, many years. So I just wanted to say that one consideration to take in is that I think that many students that are going to be coming into transitional kindergarten are going to be current families at Synapse School already. So I don't think all the students are going to be like the new addition creating more traffic. And I just wanted to say that it's not just addition to the school of a student, but transitional kindergarten is really critical, as is early childhood education, because it will have the benefits and the impact on the community in general, and even financially as well, long term. So because transitional kindergarten is so important, it's like a bridge between preschool and kindergarten. It gives kids who have issues, maybe developing their self-control or social emotional learning, it gives them that extra time to gain those skills. And there is no better place than Synapse School that teaches social emotional skills to students. And I think that's one of the amazing parts that sets Synapse apart from all the other schools, that niche that they have. Transitional kindergarten, I think it also helps children to be better prepared for school, and it gives families, the additional option to ensure that their children are kindergarten ready, and school benefits because children are going to be much more successful in the long term. So, like in my many years of working with students, there have been students who could read at 3-4 years old. They didn't have like a lot of social emotional skills and eventually had a lot of issues. So having transitional kindergarten, and especially with a lot of current families already in the school, I hope you really consider this proposal and agree with the plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe, Diana, we've heard from all of the public people who had a public comment. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe so. And I also have 2 written comments that were submitted to us that I could quickly read over. Okay. So the first one came in from Cheryl and David. And their comment is, my husband and I are opposed to the reduction of required on-site parking spaces, also opposed to increasing school enrollment from 260 to 310. It is already unsafe when children, parents, and cars are entering or leaving school. You can imagine that the congestion mixed with children, parents, and cars all merging at the same place is an accident ready to happen. You add residents who are trying to leave for work or return home during these high-impact hours. It is unsafe and unattainable situation. There is already a lack of sufficient parking in our densely populated neighborhood. Synapse employees, parents, and visitors park in front of residents' homes so that residents are required to park away from their homes. There have been many times when an SUV parked in my driveway and the driver said, "We had a meeting." There was no apology. Once there was also a limo parked in my driveway. Sometimes drivers park halfway in people's driveways in a rush. Look at our street. You will see already insufficient parking for residents and overflow from the Reeks Center. We residents have economic challenges as reasons for having to live in this neighborhood for those of us who have been here before the spike in real estate. We did not move in here knowing there were going to be a congested school zone. Please consider the impact on Hudson Way residents and the safety of all involved. Please deny the request to non-conforming use permit amendment. More impact on the neighborhood with traffic, parking, pedestrian safety is not beneficial to anyone. Thank you in advance for being responsive to the needs and safety of residents. And then the final written public comment is from Robert Newdell. And his comment is, I'm speaking on behalf of the ownership at 3475 Edson Way, 3477 through 3499 Edson Way, and 3501 through 3513 Edson Way, Menlo Park. We received notification that Synapse School is requesting to increase its facility from 260 to 310 students. In order to accommodate the increase, Synapse is requesting to reduce its on-site parking from 144 to 60 spaces, which will require an off-street parking exception. We do not take issue to the increase in enrollment. However, we have a strong objection to allowing the reduction in on-site parking at Synapse. Furthermore, we have a strong objection to allowing an off-street parking exception for Synapse. This neighborhood surrounding the Synapse School at 3375 Edson Way already has minimal parking, where there are not enough parking spaces for the surrounding residents' parking needs. If the county grants the request to reduce Synapse parking from 144 down to 60 spaces, this will cause a major shortage of parking within this neighborhood and will most likely upset every resident within this 300 feet radius. We truly believe that adjusting Synapse parking allotment will have a negative impact on both the schools, staff parking, as well as the entire surrounding community. I cannot attend the meeting this evening, but we want to go on record to say that we are not in favor of granting an on-site parking reduction, and we are not in favor of allowing any off-street parking exception to Synapse. I think those are the final written public comments.
Thank you very much, Diana. With that, I'll entertain a motion from the council for a recommendation regarding the non-conforming use permit for Synapse School.
I make the motion.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, we need a roll call vote, please.
Could I ask for clarity? Because in the prior motion, there was a decision not to make a recommendation. Is the recommendation to approve the non-conforming use permit?
Juan Carlos, clarify your motion, please. Let's see, Juan Carlos, we need a clarification of the motion. I believe what you just stated, Tim, is correct, but I would like to hear that from Juan Carlos.
Yes, that is correct. Tim's explanation is correct.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion. We have a second. We need a roll call vote.
Yes. So the first motion was by Councilmember Juan Carlos Prado and second by Councilmember Linda Lopez. So I will now take the roll call vote. Councilmember Juan Carlos Prado.
Yes.
Councilmember Beatriz Rio.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnny Gillespie is absent. Councilmember Linda Lopez.
Yes.
Councilmember Bernardo Rodriguez is absent. Councilmember Jennifer Ruiz.
Yes.
Councilmember Blair Whitney.
Yes.
Councilmember Gabriela Ike. Okay, I will mark Gabriela as abstain. Councilmember Citlali Curencita.
Abstain.
Okay, and Chair Brooks Esser.
Yes.
Okay, so motion passes with 5 votes, 2 absent, and 2 abstain.
Okay, thank you very much, Diana. A long evening. I'd like to thank everyone who attended today, especially our presenters, Ron Gonzalez of the Hispanic Foundation of Silicon Valley, as well as Olivia and Kanawa from County Planning. Thanks so much to the members of the public who attended, particularly those who participated this evening, as well as the press and Peninsula Media for covering our meeting. As always, thanks to the county staff, Justin, Emma, Tim, and Maggie, Diana, Kenny, and Anna for their support. Our next council meeting is a regular meeting scheduled for February 24th, 2002 from 7 to 9. We're going to be receiving library updates as well as an update from the Office of Sustainability. And I believe we have a planning and building action on there as well. And our annual council leadership election will be held then. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn.
We have a second?
Second.
Okay. We don't need a roll call for that. Just all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Good night, everyone. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, the time is now 9:52 and the meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, North Fair Oaks. Really